things we're talking about in council updates, the water situation. All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate that. It's looking good, though. It's looking good.
So far, so good.
Yes, it is.
That rain helped.
You mean the rain that was and the winds that came so hard that like it literally flipped my entire back table and
Nobody cares.
Okay.
We got rain.
Yeah, right. We all care about the rain. We were.
Wrapped my umbrella
We
around
needed
the
the
tree.
rain.
Thank you, Tori, for pointing out the obvious. He wasn't getting it from me, so I'm glad you chimed in there.
Thanks. All right. It's 7 o'clock in Gardner, Kansas, so I'm going to call the Gardner City Council meeting to order. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, before we get started, I wanted to just kind of address a situation with regard to the mask mandate. I had individually asked each council member whether they're going to wear a mask tonight. We had a couple of them say they were not choosing to do so, and that is the end of that. There's not going to be any enforcement. Nobody's going to be dragged off by the police in this room. We asked all members of the council as well as staff to wear masks, and that is that. If you have any objections from the rest of the council, we'll move on. Okay, so we're going to have a presentation now on the 2021-22 draft budget. Finance Director Matt Wolf. Good evening. Love the mask. Love the KC Royals mask.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Yep. Well, I see yours all the time.
As you're all aware, the city has been using priority-based budgeting for a number of years now. We're at a key step, number 7, monitoring results and adjusting as necessary. Tonight's presentation is broken into 3 components: revenue update, budget adjustments, and next steps. I have some good news for you tonight. We received our June distribution of sales tax. That includes both city sales tax and our portion of county sales tax. City sales tax is up overall in the year 5%. We're a lot more insulated than other communities around us. Gardner's portion of county sales tax is down 2% on the year, and the 10% distribution, or we're down 10% in June's distribution, which is April's collections, by 10%, which is, now that hurts, but it's not near as bad as we originally heard from the county, where estimates are up to 25% loss. So things are coming in better than we expected. Bottom line is, our general fund revenue shortfall used to be 1.2 million. Now that we actually have data to go on, it's at 660,000.
Okay.
Way to work the numbers.
One thing I do want people to take into account, though, is although we've not seen as much of a loss of revenue as other communities in the area, there's still a lot of uncertainty going forward. 10% loss in April still does hurt, and if this COVID or the pandemic continues to drag on, things will get more impacted. We added in a 3% merit pool back into the 2021 budget. We did this after discussing what neighboring jurisdictions were doing. Originally, a lot of jurisdictions weren't planning to have a merit in the budget, but now most of them seem to be including it. And we have concerns about falling behind again. If you remember, we did a compensation study. We've implemented it over the last several years to basically get up to market competitive wages. We don't want to fall behind again. I wanted to bring it to your attention that we are changing how we're doing transfers from water fund to wastewater fund. Kind of historically, we've had $1 million a year kind of subsidy from the water fund to wastewater fund. And if you recall, the rate study was one of the goals is to eliminate that subsidy. We can't do that all at once, but we're trying to phase it out over time. So we cut it in half for the next 4 years, and then 2025 would be phased out when the rate study said we'd be raising our sewer rates. We've also revised the placeholder for the new wastewater treatment plant cost from 28 million to 20 million. There's several reasons for doing this. One, it's necessary to keep a healthy fund balance, try and get project costs down, kind of mitigate the risk of overbuilding capacity, and the plant will still be expandable to accommodate all future growth in that kind of growth area. And this is just a placeholder. Once we get more cost estimates and a better idea of what we're planning to do, we'll come back for the council to review it.
Great.
I also want to bring to your attention that we're planning to amend the 2020 budget for the land bank. Essentially, we created the land bank fund and put $5,000 in there from the general fund earlier this year. That was not part of the approved 2020 budget that was submitted to the state. We need to amend the budget. So if we have a project that needs to use land bank this year, we have budget authority to be able to use that money. And here's kind of a summary of the impact of the budget adjustments for general fund. Since we did add the merit back in, I want to show you that the flat mill, we still have a flat mill levy for all 3 years. And actually the projected year-end general fund balance went up since last presentation. Last time, we were projected to end 2022 with a 23% fund balance. As you can see now, it's up to 24%. And that's closer to our target of 25%. Generally, as long as we're in the 20 to 30% range, we're pretty solid, but we prefer to be closer to 25%. Next steps, direction from governing body here tonight, then budget public hearing on August 3rd, then budget adoption on August 17th.
Great, thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I will start on my left with Councilmember Gorsuch. No, there's no public comments on the
That's right,
presentation.
it's presentation.
Yes. So, Councilmember Gorsuch?
Thank you, Mayor. If we could go back to, I think it was the first slide. Oh, it was not. It was the third or fourth. I apologize, Sharon, right there.
Yeah.
So sales tax up 5% on the year. What does that equate to in dollars?
Hold on.
Because I'm just trying to find the $660,000 difference if we were 1.2 million negative.
It looks like the difference between year-to-date in June of 2020 versus 2019, it looks about 60,000, about 57 maybe.
Okay. So where's the other 600,000 approximately?
That's the county portion. We were expecting the county revenues to be way down, like over 20%. As it turns out, it was a lot less than that.
So it was what, 8% or 2%?
It's,
So it's down 2% on the year and 10% for April.
Let the man with the numbers tell us.
yeah,
I
let
agree.
Matt.
Just give me a second.
Yeah, take your time.
Don't worry, we're not breaking any records with this council meeting. The mayor already jinxed it.
Overall, actually, sales tax for the city is up about 2% if you combine both.
Say that again, Matt, I'm sorry.
For the entire city, if you combine both the city and county sales tax together, we had about 2.9 million across all funds. Last year in 2019, it's about 2.97 now.
Okay. Okay, that's good enough. Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Council Vice President?
I got nothing. I'm excited.
Yep. Two quick questions. Are we expecting June, July to be similar collections, or even maybe better? Since I would assume April is one of the worst hit months.
April will be one of the worst ones. It'd probably be around the same. Like, we only had a partial month for March collections, which we got in May. That was 9% down for county. I wouldn't be surprised if the city goes up a little bit more just because the price shopper opening up. It's really hard to say what the county is going to do, but I would expect it to continue, down 8 to 10% probably.
Okay. And the 3% merit, what was the dollar figure on that?
I believe that was around 270. And keep in mind there's a cumulative effect when you go over years.
And so, was there any then budget thought to adding anything else back in that we originally took out, or
Well, we had a
police
discussion.
cars, or
About the city manager and also the police chief to discuss, because we know vehicles came up last time. And overall, I was more concerned about retaining personnel with vehicles. At this time, we decided not to add the vehicles back in, but we can always reconvene, and once we get through the year and see what our fund balance is, we can start adding, maybe increasing what we're planning to buy next year and the year after that.
Okay, great. Councilman Baldwin?
I'm good right now.
Councilwoman Roberts?
I'm good right now.
Thank you very much. What specific direction do we want to move forward with what we've got right now and then come back with additional line items to discuss at the next meeting, or?
That's correct. I mean, there's always gonna be like minor changes, but this kind of significantly setting what the budget is. We'll go out and publish what we're planning out for the budget in the paper, kind of set the maximum it can be, and then we'll move forward for the public hearing.
Okay. I just have one question about the wastewater treatment plant, because I think there might be some question as to how we were able to lop off almost 35% off the cost. Is there a possibility we can just kind of go over what was changed in the plans for the plant to bring that number down? Gons, is there a possibility you can go over that real quick?
The original, the estimates I presented to you maybe a month ago, it included it was based on a 1.25 million gallon day facility. So what we're looking now is what's the minimum we can put in place to serve Grata and additional annexations.
Okay.
So looking at close to 1 million, we can, that's the reason why the cost went from 28 to 20. But we retain GBA, and they're working on the estimate.
Okay.
So it may go up, but I think that 20 million is a good starting point.
And we're building this in modular fashion so that we
Yes,
can
sir.
quickly add capacity.
It'll be similar to Hillsdale, same concept,
Sure.
that you can go in different phases, up to maybe 4 phases.
Okay. Well, thank you for that clarification. You wanted to add something already? Or Mark?
So if we're reducing capacity, how much more growth can we sustain without needing that capacity back that we were projecting and wanting?
Yeah, that was a similar question I had.
I know that's a loaded question, but
Looking just at Greta, we can, the Greta sanitary sewer is being designed to handle a full build-out for the Perry Trace section of the development. If we don't do anything, we have until 2025 before we need to build a wastewater treatment facility. Now, if we do the construction earlier, then we'll have more capacity for future developments. So right now, the number is about 2025, 2026.
Which
That
is,
we
by
will
the
need
way-
to do something.
Which is, by the way, when we start seeing the revenue from the additional wastewater rate increases. That's one of the things we talked about is, can we push up the wastewater rates to be able to absorb that additional cost?
you're just
or-
lining it all up there.
Exactly. It's a timing thing more than anything else.
I got you.
But GBA is doing this analysis also. It will give us a better number in a month or so.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Any other questions for anybody before we let Matt go? All right. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Good work. Okay, let's move on to public comments. We have no public hearings tonight. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. The mic is available, and we have a 5-minute time limit. Please, no profanity, no personal attacks. I don't expect that from anybody in this room. They're all very nice and cordial people. So with that being said, I will ask people to come forward. I'm talking about there.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for clarifying.
With that being said, I will open up the mic for any public comments. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, I will move on to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the council wishes to remove an item from the consent agenda? There was a typo on one of the items, but I think we got that corrected, correct? Okay, great. Yes, thank you, Tori.
Good catch, Tori.
Yes.
Way to go, staff, getting 70 million miles out of that.
All right, so. All right, I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
So, second,
Motion, Winters, second,
I'm Milton.
Melton.
Do you need
Yes,
the-
yes. That we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? Consent agenda passes. We have nothing on the planning and zoning consent agenda, committee recommendations, old business or new business. We're gonna move straight on to council updates. Is there anything that staff has for council? I will start with the acting chief over there tonight. Yes, sir.
Well, not acting, but filling in. I think I provided you all with our statistics from the fireworks enforcement over the window around the 4th of July. Did any of you have any questions or concerns for any of that I can try and answer or address?
So just curious, on the warnings, what kind of, in general, what kind of feedback, when you gave the warnings, I mean,
Yeah, well, one of the things we did to try to avoid a situation where somebody was getting multiple warnings was we had the officers track anywhere that they had contact with somebody and gave a warning, whether that was a written warning or a verbal warning. We kept a digital log that was running that the officers could view in the field so that we didn't avoid a situation where somebody was getting a warning from Officer A and Officer B in consecutive days. Sorry, can everybody hear me? Not hear me? So that was one of the things we did. We only had one return address that we went to during that time period. And the second time there was an arrest made, so there was no need for a citation. It was an unrelated incident that resulted in an arrest. So we had no return addresses other than that one that the officers were able to track. So that was, we felt like we got good compliance with using warnings as opposed to, citations or that type of thing. Officers use discretions, I guess.
okay, and that was kind of my question. I mean, how effective was it, I guess, individually? Like 51 warnings, did that effectively make 50 of them stop shooting before they were supposed to or after they were supposed to? Or?
That's what we found.
Okay.
So I didn't get any feedback differently from either citizens today or my officers that they had return incidents at any of those addresses.
Was it a mix of like after hours, or was it like one way or the other, after hours or in the street, or a little bit of both, or?
Yeah, that's why I tried to break it down there. You'll see that
Okay.
before the legal dates, we had the vast majority of those warning contacts were made. So those were discharged when it was not legal to discharge by city ordinance in the hours or days ahead of time. We had not that many that were a violation as far as hours or in the street. Now, obviously, on the 4th, that's a heavy call load day for us. So we did have additional officers out the 1st through the 5th to try to combat some of that. So that they were out there dedicated for that purpose. But it's just we're kind of overwhelmed resource-wise on the 3rd and 4th, to be honest, with just the amount of calls that we're getting. Did I answer your question
I
effectively?
think so. It did seem like after 11, I did hear a lot of fireworks going off. So I didn't know if there was.
I'm sorry, I didn't break out exactly
Gotcha.
whether those violations were after
Okay.
hours or if they were in the street during those legal days. So
Gotcha.
if you want that, I can certainly send it to you tomorrow when I get in and break down each day.
I'm sure that would be nice. That would be helpful for all of us to have.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. Absolutely. I can send that out tomorrow.
Great.
I had a question. 2 additional officers for approximately 5 hours each day for 5 days. Would it be fair to assume that that's overtime?
That is, we staff that with overtime, yes.
Okay, so there's a cost to that.
There is, sir.
And then from a street sweeper perspective, and I don't, this isn't you, but I don't see Kramer or anybody.
Michael's on the.
Oh, I just didn't see, oh, there's his name. Mr. Kramer, I apologize. Do we suspect that the street sweepers will be out, and of how much of the road will they be doing?
So typically, when there's fireworks and debris in the roadway, our street crews try and encourage the folks to go clean up their own trash. They do obviously their routine sweeping and such, but a large majority of it, we request that the owners go pick it up. And so, so not a tremendous amount of specific going and cleaning up fireworks debris.
So at what point do we provide to the citizens that created the debris to get it cleaned up after a good time, that we would step in to clean up those streets?
Do you mean as in?
I think that,
Go ahead, Michael.
sorry, yeah, I think that would be more of a codes enforcement issue, to follow up with.
Plate driven.
That's what I was gonna ask is,
Okay.
did you mean a
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah, well, no, I'm not alluding to fines, but I think there needs to be, a period of time for folks to get it cleaned up, considering you shot on the 5th or after the holiday. But on the other
Yeah, I
hand,
think
those are our streets, so we need to, keep them clean, or the best that we can, considering.
Well, that's what I was wondering where you're going,
Yeah.
cause it would sound a lot like, snow removal.
Oh, absolutely,
your own
and that's why I was
property.
asking timeline.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say, I think in the past, we've had, pretty good compliance with folks cleaning up, their cul-de-sacs and such, once we, inform them that, hey, that's really your, responsibility to go clean up the mess you made.
Yep, but 48 to 72 hours, I think that's what you're getting at with snow removal, just kind of doing it with the same thing with fireworks, it's just,
Well, because downstream, and I mean that quite literally,
oh yeah, stuff gets washed into our gutters and,
yeah, I mean, we could talk to the wastewater guys and get their opinion, and then chemically speaking, there's magnesium and all kinds of fun chemicals in these pyro
powder.
items, that get into our water stream. I don't know that it's our drinking water, but nonetheless into our water stream. So, I don't know, I just think that, we should, at some point, not tonight, but at some point, evaluate the fireworks. This is what, the 3rd year since the ordinance has been, 4th year, since the ordinance has been enacted. And it was all done above board, but I think we are to really take a look at the data and understand what the cost and what the safety and, I've got folks that, and again, I've been out of the state, but I had folks calling and texting, PTSD, et cetera, and just make sure that we're listening to the minority just as we're listening to the majority. So I just encourage us to maybe get it on the agenda in the next 3 or 4 months, just to look at the data. I don't want to look at it from an emotional perspective, but just look at it from a data perspective.
Totally agree, and I
That's
think
all I had.
it's important that we have that, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, continuous improvement.
Exactly. So, anything else, officer? Nothing else, okay. Gons Garcia.
Yes, sir. 2 items. The first one is the Water Watch. That was adopted on June 19th. On the charge, I left the 2 charts on your stations. You will see that the water demand over the past 7 days has decreased below the Water Watch level. I think partly due to weather. It's been less hotter than previously, and a few rainfalls usually help. And I'm hoping that part of the decrease is due to water conservation. We have no way of measuring that right now. Hopefully with the smart meter, we will be able to see how much is water conservation. But based on we still have another 2-3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks of hot weather. So I would recommend keeping the water watch and the water conservation until further, until the trend remains on the downside.
So maybe either second meeting of July or first meeting in August, we'd be looking at this again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thoughts from the council?
Fine with that.
That's fine.
Okay, all right.
And
The second item has to do with the.
Please, hit your, I'm sorry.
The second item, on December 3rd, 2019, the city adopted a smart meter opt-out program that includes a digital and a medical. Today, we have received 9 requests for opt-outs, of which 5 are digital and 4 are medical. In order to get a medical opt-out, they require a physician's verification statement. We have ran into a administrative problem. They can get the physician's signature, but that statement needs to be signed by a notary. In most healthcare facilities, there is no notaries.
Right.
Yep.
So, and some physicians are not willing to go with the patient to the notary. So right now we have a partially completed physician verification statement.
So what's the notary requirement? Is that actually in the resolution that we passed? And do
It was
we-
part of the actual program that
Okay.
included.
So can we
So we just need to
strike
change
that
that?
requirement?
Yeah, that seems too much.
To the digital, could the medical become a digital opt-out?
No, because the medical, they don't want no smart meters at all.
At all?
Yeah, they want
Right.
just the analog meter to
The
continue.
digital, what you sign for the digital, the smart meter will wake up once a month
Right.
and send the information to the billing department.
Yeah. I personally am okay with removing the notary requirement. I think that is a little bit of
Yeah.
overkill.
Could we have the doctor fax us the form from a doctor's office? That's what they typically do to verify that it's a valid signature.
It's what you do.
Is
for
just
prescription.
It's on-
Yeah, I mean,
on
if it works
station.
for a prescription, it should work for.
Yeah,
on
they just
letterhead.
sign the form and fax it to us from the doctor's office so we can verify.
Well, if it's on letterhead, isn't that also?
Do we need to amend the ordinance on that?
It's in the policy.
Okay, so we can.
We can
as
amend
a
that
body-
policy, we can amend that policy by
Right.
body action right now. We can strike that requirement.
I'm
Good?
good with that.
Yeah.
Consensus?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and strike the notary requirement.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, great, thank you. See, that's easy. Parks and Rec, Jason Bruce. Excellent work on the fireworks presentation on Saturday.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a pretty good turnout for the social distancing drive-in style. The Gardner radio worked very well. I think people enjoyed that. I did want to thank Fire District 1, PD, Public Works, Echo Dev. A lot of people did some things for this event, and hoping next year we'll get to have the full festival and concert and all that stuff. So with all things considered, it was a great show and had some really good compliments from the general public. So, and then also after months and months and months of planning and getting curveballs thrown at us, we are rolling out our baseball softball program tonight.
Yay.
Tri-County, along with us, we start games this week. It will be a shortened season. We're going to run through the end of July with some makeup games if needed the first week of August. So we're excited to get that going, and obviously the numbers are down, but we still had really good turnout. We did kind of something different a little this year. We did a checkout system for people who didn't have their own bats or helmets, things like that. So we checked those out to participants if they needed it. So
That's great.
that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Jason. City Clerk. Finance Director Wolf. Anything else for us? All right. Michael Kramer. Anything for us, sir? Gonna talk about Santa Fe and Waverly?
Certainly can mention that. So the intersection of Santa Fe and Waverly closed today. Is scheduled to be open within 2 weeks. That's what the contractor's allowed to have that closed, and certainly don't foresee any problems. But it is construction, but so yeah, that is hopefully we'll stay on schedule and do well. You know, folks are detoured as they come in from the west and also from the, you know, any other direction. So there should be detoured signs and follow those detours. Additional information on our website and et cetera. The one item I wanted to mention tonight was the large item pickup day. And of course, we had to cancel that earlier this year due to COVID and not knowing the impacts to both the budget and then also, you know, potential restrictions with the trash haulers even being able to do the project. We have rebid that, and we'll be evaluating those bids and bringing those back as early as your next council meeting. We did make quite a few changes to the program. And these were both they were done in looking at what other cities did, you know, looking at what Olathe and Overland Park and Prairie Village and others did, and also talking to the folks at Gardner Disposal on, you know, what would help them do a better job and be able to keep our pricing down. And so some of the things that you'll see when the proposal comes in is a limit on the number of items that folks can put out. And then also probably the biggest thing that's going to impact people and the tonnage that we end up picking up is not allowing construction and demolition debris, and also no commercial debris. It's just, you know, residential items such as, you know, furniture or an old barbecue grill or basketball goal, swing sets. We will allow carpet rolls, you know, and generally those items that will not be picked up by your regular trash service. So that being said, in order to reach what Matt has in the budget, overall, we need to, you know, reduce the tonnage by about a third, about 30% or so, to be on budget. So anyway, that's just a little update on the large item pickup, and there will be more information coming out soon.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Michael. And yeah, those changes should definitely help to bring down the tonnage. There were some people taking advantage of some of that magnanimosity or whatever it is that we've been showing. So hopefully that will not deter people who are needing that from being able to get rid of their stuff. So
Wasn't commercial and construction debris already excluded last year?
no, it had not been excluded. We had not explicitly said
Right.
it.
You could put it out there, and and now there were certain things like washing machines and, you know, other things like that they wouldn't take, but refrigerators and stuff.
Yeah.
Because of free on it, all the compounds in there. Paint, still not gonna be able to put out your paint cans and stuff like that.
And one thing I'd add on that too is, you know, because of the significant change, you know, I think we probably will recommend that we do a mailer ahead of time to let everyone know, not just those folks who get, you know, Danika's emails, et cetera. I think it'd be important to actually give them a postcard or some type of notification.
That'd be a really good idea.
I think that's pretty inexpensive, you know, to do.
Yep. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your work on that. City Attorney.
Nothing from me.
Nothing from you, okay. We do have one chair missing tonight, and that's Economic Development Director. Larry Powell announced his retirement from the City of Gardner a couple weeks ago, and he is now enjoying retirement. We really appreciate his efforts, his work, in helping to move the city forward over the last few years. I want to just acknowledge that because we didn't get a chance to do so at the last meeting. So thank you, Larry Powell, for your service to our community. All right, council, have anything for staff? I'm sorry.
Can I weigh in just a
Oh,
little?
city, we don't need really need to hear
I
from
mean,
you,
since
city
they showed
administrator.
up.
I need to sit high.
City, all right. You know, I keep forgetting you. Sorry about that. City Administrator Pruding,
Yeah.
what is on your plate?
As a follow-up to Waverly Plaza, we had some trouble lining up schedules, but I do have a meeting scheduled next Monday with their group and the attorney. So
Great.
that conversation will be moving forward. Just an update on the Grotto project. We've been going back and forth with Water One on getting a plan together for us to acquire right-of-way and get that started. The latest is that now the county and Olathe had a plan from several years ago where they were going to expand 175th Street and Waverly Road, and they're asking us now to acquire 200 feet of right-of-way instead of 120, with that, it would be an additional expense. So we're trying to work through that issue.
Okay.
If we do it in the right-of-way and it's not big enough, they expand the road, then it has to be moved. So I've got to work with Ryan to determine how that's going to work. If we obtain the right-of-way, build the infrastructure, and then have to turn it over to Water One, if in 10 years they expand the road, who's got the responsibility for moving the line? So trying to work through that. Everything else is moving forward with the Grotto development. And then Plaza South is also moving ahead as scheduled. So
Yeah, I saw that they've got the fill dirt in there and the
Yep.
bulldozers are moving, and they've got the big culvert that they're building out to for the new watery.
Attention.
It's not retention. It's actually it's a spillway almost for water to come across to the other side of the area. So good to see that moving forward. Thank you. All right, now does council have anything for staff? I'm gonna start with Tori Roberts.
I have nothing, thank you for asking.
Okay, Randy Gruwersic.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I've got one question for Matt and then the last question for Jim. Matt, historically, I think sales tax revenue from fireworks is about 60 days out.
Okay.
I'm asking.
Yeah, it's about 2 months.
Okay. And then the second question for Jim is, what is the status of the Lake Road that we discussed at the last meeting?
I talked to Michael Kramer, and we are going to do some minor maintenance there. Going back into the history, there was no council decision to stop doing that. The decision was made between, I believe it was Cheryl and Michael, just to stop it. So we're going to start doing some minor maintenance there.
Okay, and then are we going to try to, no pun intended, but draw the line in the sand as to whose responsibility that is thereafter?
Well, we actually, and I went over this with Michael on the map, we actually own other roads around the lake, but they're just not in the city, so we don't get any tax collection from it. So we're just going to, the area that is defined on the Ames map, we're just going to take care of those areas, which is the general common drive, and then they take care of the areas next to their residents.
Okay, thank you. And then the last, Mr. Mayor, and I heard your statement at the beginning of the meeting, and it's fair to say, but I still, I can't get my head wrapped around, I guess, as to why Councilman Melton or Councilman Baldwin wouldn't wear a face mask when it has gone all the way to the county commissioners, hotly discussed. I'll leave it at that and allow the voters to have the final say, but I don't know, I don't get it, but.
Well, it's a
that's
civil
just one man's
matter.
opinion.
It's a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. We don't have.
I
any
never
major
alluded to any of that, sir.
force. So,
Just making a statement.
I understand that.
Okay.
Well, you asked me, you said you were asking me a question, so I was trying to respond, so. If you don't want to hear my response, I understand.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so the reason why is because it's a civil matter, not a criminal matter. The complaints have to come from an individual standing within this body, and I believe that. Tell me if I'm off topic on this or off my chair on this, city attorney.
Speak, because I haven't reviewed Johnson County's order, so I
Yeah.
go back and look at it.
And Johnson County didn't really issue an order as much as they basically supported the state's recommendations or the state's
Not the
mandate.
states, the governor.
Yeah, they didn't opt out of the
governor's mandate,
executive.
exactly,
Right.
the governor's mandate, sorry about that. So it was an executive order passed by the governor's office that was then, put forward to the counties. I think that 2/3 of the counties of the state decided not to follow that particular mandate. Johnson County did. And the point of that is that, and we've spoken with the city, not the city, the district attorney about this. The DA and the Attorney General both put out opinions on this, basically stating this as being a civil issue. There is no way to enforce an issue such as this other than through some sort of ruling of trespassing, but that's only for private businesses. There is no trespassing on public property. So that's where the situation lies right now. And,
Duly noted, thank you.
and you're right, there's a court of public opinion, and that's the one this is going to have to play out in.
Yes, thank
So, all right. Mark Baldwin, Councilman.
I don't have anything. If anybody wants to talk to me about the mess, they know my number and my email.
Okay. Council Vice President.
Yeah, I'm with Mark on the mask thing. I think everybody knows where I stand on that, so I made it pretty clear right after the governor sent down her edict. So the first thing I want to say is fireworks. I went to all the stands this year and I talked to all the different vendors. So again, I'm going to just state for the record, I don't own a fireworks stand and I don't run one. So that rumor has been out there. And let me tell you, if I owned one or ran it, you'd know it. So anyway, everybody was up on every day of sales. I mean, from the first day they started all the way through, they were up. They had tons of people coming in from Olathe and Overland Park, which is awesome. It's nice to see money flowing back this direction. A lot of people hung out with their friends and stuff. I did want to say everybody needs to we really need to get the cleanup stuff hammered out. Every year I talk about this. If we're going to allow this, we need to make sure we do our part to clean up. So please make sure that happens. If you make a mess, clean it up. Near as I could tell, there was about $600,000 in fireworks sales over those days. So a lot of the stands sold out completely before, or real close, before they even had a chance to stay open the whole time. So I was going to make a recommendation, and this kind of goes into what we were talking about earlier, but I think right now we have a special permit for fireworks, correct?
Yep, so 7 days, 7 days before the 4th.
So I make a recommendation, and the body can decide, but we go ahead and do a fireworks ordinance that would allow the sale for 9 days like the state allows. So some of these folks could set up for a little while longer. They could have sold on the 5th if they still had inventory, because we lost a lot of sales because people had to go to DeSoto or Spring Hill to buy stuff on the 5th because of our ordinance only allowing 7 days when the state allows 9.
The question I've got is, from the standpoint of, I think that there is a bit of a parallel between sale dates and discharge. And at the state level, you can actually discharge during that time of sale. And we don't have that in Gardner.
No, I understand.
So there's a little bit of a difference in that regard.
Well, this is what those folks were asking for, so I'm just
Certainly.
telling you, because they invest a lot to come into Gardner, and
Yes, and we appreciate their investment.
so
Having said that, we probably will need to have a little bit more discussion on that.
and then the other thing I thought was, at that point, if we talk about a fireworks ordinance, we could actually look at kind of the stuff that Councilman Gregorczyk brought up about the things that are going to be associated with, hey, look, if these rules get broken, this is what's going to happen, and all
Which
those things can.
Yeah, we've had those discussions before, but
They can be in the ordinance though, so that way there's no, right? we
gray
know-
area?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Did we land on 3rd, 4th, and 5th every year?
Yes.
We did.
That's what we have right now.
That's what the standard, the master ordinance says
Right.
right now that we approved last year,
Right,
Mhm.
okay.
so,
or in the spring, I should say, not last year.
yeah. So also, wastewater plant in Edgerton, what's the status on that? I haven't heard anything in a while, so.
So I emailed Beth Lynn and got a response about 10 days later. She had been out of town. She said that she was going to get with Mayor Roberts and get back with me. I believe that was about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard back from her yet.
Okay, please follow up with that.
I
I
will.
will do my part to follow up with Mayor Roberts, or you can, it's up to you. But since he reached out to me about it, I wanna make sure we get that done, so.
He reached out to you about a couple of things, actually. So
I know,
wanna have some movement on both of those items.
I'd like to see a lot of that get taken care of.
Yes.
We have had ongoing discussions with the county about 199th Street, and then we talked to the state about some relevant issues with regard to the way station and other things as well. So,
Good.
I think those conversations are gonna be broader than just between us and Edgerton.
They need to be. It's
Yeah.
more regional impact,
Right,
so. All right, anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay, great. Council President.
Yeah, just, I wanted to thank, the Gardner PD Fire Department, for the extra work past week. You know, it is kind of a difficult, because you're trying to enforce some of the things are difficult to enforce. I would like, you know, along with Rich, along with Randy, Mr. Kokorczyk, continue discussion though on ways we can improve, or ways we can get people to follow the rules better, for lack of a better term. So hopefully we can continue to come up with some dialogue and some discussion and ideas on that as we move forward with this. So
I'm all for that. I think that we need to look at ways to improve, and I think that there's something to be said about just the extraordinary circumstances that have happened this calendar year that have not been present in other years. I call it COVID madness, or whatever you want to call it, but a lot of people have been cooped up in their houses and have had, you know, situations within their households that they've not been able to control, and, you know, this provides individuals an outlet.
Explosives is the perfect release.
No, and in a lot of ways,
It's a
you're
lot of-
right.
It's cheap therapy.
And at the same time, you know, with personal freedom comes personal responsibility, and we also have to balance both of those as part of being in a free society, being in community. So, you know,
So cooped up, wanting to enjoy themselves, I get,
Yes.
but what does that have to do with whether or not they follow the rules?
well, I think that there's some folks who would like look at the mask mandate. I mean, let's just be honest here. I mean, there's people who
Really wanna go down that road?
Yeah, do you really wanna get into that debate?
I'm just
Because I
saying.
mean, the fireworks thing was passed by the state, it was passed by the state legislature, the senate, and the governor, and then approved by this body.
I'm just talking about rules and.
Okay,
and-
just saying.
And,
You want,
and community.
So, because it's been difficult for these past few months, then everybody's good with masks as well, right?
No, I think everybody's good with trying to make themselves feel better about things.
Yep.
How about that?
okay,
And the way some people exercise that is by blowing things up, and that's great. And at the same time, blowing things up after midnight and blowing things up, you know, before the discharge dates is not cool. And for people to just give up, you know, a bottle rocket shaped middle finger at people in authority is not cool either. So.
Is that the fireworks or us?
I don't know, I'm so confused.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that's fireworks, dude. So,
Well, I mean, we don't have to get into the fireworks discussion, but, you know, two simple things we could look at with that is the fireworks stands don't have massive signs that say the times and hours that you can shoot.
and that's a problem.
We could have that as a requirement at every stand.
We should make an ordinance or something that says all that.
And as far as Sunday, you know, the 5th, after the fact, still going to 11 o'clock, I'd be more than happy to see that reduced down earlier in the day, but you give people on the 2nd, in this case, that evening.
So expand it by another day.
No, just shift the hours.
Yeah, but still, it's
We have
another
a-
night.
No, you'd have a night, but you wouldn't have the night on the 5th.
Oh, you would have the night on the fifth, just
Yes.
during the day. Okay.
Because the logic there is, on the 5th, you know, people are going back to work, right? On the 4th, people are off. On the 3rd, some people are off. Now, of course, this goes back to the whole rolling through the year thing that
Yeah, like
we
you
can get
wanted.
back into if you'd like.
Yeah, they're not, it's
But-
not always on Friday, unfortunately, or Saturday.
But yes, there's
Okay.
things we could throw out there.
I like to move that.
I wasn't involved in the fireworks discussion, I'm new to this, so I would welcome another discussion, so maybe we could adjust some of the times a little bit, like Mark said.
I think we just make it easy and go 24/7, 365.
Nope.
I don't think that's gonna pass.
And I'm just saying, boy can dream, you know?
Just go to the firing range if you're that
Oh, no, I do, trust me.
connected. Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do you wanna say anything?
I think you guys said enough.
Oh, wow.
All right,
That-
I'll entertain a motion.
So
So
moved.
I got a motion.
Second.
Second. All right, motion, Gregorsek, second, Mel, we adjourn. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, any abstentions? We are adjourned.
Hey, don't take it off.